Hello and welcome to Boom Goddess Radio. This is Jennifer Davis Page, your host, and we are here today with a part two of a remarkable series that was conducted by Dr. Chandra Llewellyn Travis. And we welcome you back, Dr. Travis, and we would like you to tell our listeners about ACEs. We want to continue talking about that and resilience. Welcome back, Dr. Chandra.
Yes, thank you for having me back. And I'd just like to give a little recap of what we did in part one on ACEs. So ACEs is Adverse Childhood Experience Study, which was done in 1995 by the Center for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente. It was a study that looked at health outcomes of adults based on life experiences they had as children. And it was conducted and it was found that people who had high scores on ACEs were 3 times more likely to have heart disease and lung cancer. They had a 20-year decrease in life expectancy. There was a higher incidence of depression, suicidality, and other mental health issues. And although it was something people didn't pay attention to, because oftentimes people go to the doctor, they're just looking for a physical thing that has caused the ailment. This study shows that sometimes we have to look at the experience that the person has had and how that has manifested, that trauma has manifested in the body. The goal of sharing the survey in part one was to indicate what some of those things were and to help the audience become aware of how that may have impacted their health care, their health quality, their health, and how they may choose to use with their healthcare. As parents identify interventions of working with children or raising children so that they are not unnaturally exposed to traumas that they don't need to be. And if they have had a traumatic experience, that early intervention is gained. So that was the intention of our first program. And the ACEs score is not a sentence. It's an indicator that you may want to look into something. We're not giving medical advice on this show, but we are sharing information that could be valuable to the quality of your well-being and the well-being of those you care about. I wanted to address the ACEs study, not solely about like, oh my God, I have this high ACE score, what am I going to do? But professionally, I'm a board certified life and leadership coach. And one of the things that we're really interested in is like, how do people get back on their feet? How do they move forward? How do they cultivate the life that they want? And this brings up a topic of resiliency, which is also part of a topic. And what this field of study that I'm enjoying is positive psychology. So I want to share some of that information on this program as well.
Absolutely. The mic is yours. Continue.
Okay, so last week we talked about like we had like what are some of those negative experiences. So I'm just going to read a small list of positive childhood experiences, and the listeners may want to check off if they had that in their lives or if they can provide it for some young person in their lives. And this again is before the age of 18. How often did you experience in your childhood the following? I felt able to talk to a family member about my feelings. I felt my family stood by me during difficult times. I enjoyed participating in community traditions. I felt a sense of belonging in high school. I felt supported by my friends. I have at least 2 non-parent adults who took genuine interest in me. I felt safe and protected by an adult in my home. So those are positive experiences that we should also focus on. It's not just the negative experiences, but these are some of the positive experiences that can actually change favorably the outcome for a young person.
Now, can a person take the ACEs quiz, and then this is the questions that you just read off comes from where? Where do they find those questions?
These are some coaching resources, and I can also provide the link for that as well. But these are just some of the, there are a series of youth development tools that look at what does a strong young person, what creates resiliency and strength in young people. This didn't come directly from them, but the Search Institute has a lot of information on things like this, especially if you're dealing with young people.
And can you provide our listeners with those links so that they can do their own homework and see how it works for them?
Yes, I can. So even just Search Institute, you can Google that, and they have a whole slew of material that is available.
Terrific. Resilience. Let's talk. You want to talk a little bit about resilience?
Yeah, I like to call my way of saying resilience is that it's your bounce back ability, right? Stuff happens, like weevils wobble, but they don't fall down was the old commercial.
Right.
Certain people, the same incident can happen to a variety of people, and how they respond has a lot to do with the degree of resilience they have. Resilience also can be cultivated. Some people think you're either born with it, you're not. That's not true. You can actually cultivate resilience. Resilience is something that resilience isn't talked about as much as adversity, right? Like when something, we really invest in, oh my God, what a hard, oh, this happened to so-and-so, and oh, I can't believe it. We get that the drama of the trauma becomes the narrative. But there is a narrative about this person went through all of this, and despite it all, they persisted. They overcame. The overcomingness that exists in us is actually there, but we have to cultivate that sense in ourselves and in the people that we're around. And so what I'd like to do is sometimes we can't get to that space because we're overstressed, right? It's like I got so much going on, I can't think straight, and I can't get to trying to be resilient. I'm just trying to get through, or I'm just trying to deal with myself right now. And so what I'd like to share with you before we do the resilience piece is to think about what I like when I have a client in my office, some of the things I share with them, right? So I learned this in the most unusual place. I was at a conference for clinicians and coaches and therapists at Harvard, and on stress management. And a woman got on the stage with a bottle of bubbles, the bubbles you got when you're like 5 years old. And she says, blow bubbles and see what that does to reduce your stress. So not everybody had bubbles there. She says, you don't need the bottle with the bubbles. She says, just take your finger up like this and go, and pretend you're blowing this huge big bubble. Try it, Jennifer. And what that's doing is controlling the breath. When we can control our breath, we can create better physiology for our well-being, and it slows us down. When we have adrenaline rushes or we're like in fight and flight mode, we can't function well, especially if we don't need to be in that mode. So just learning how to control the breath. I'll give you another way of learning how to control your breath. I'm going to do it by humming. So I'm going to take one of my favorite songs and hum it at what I would do my regular. So. All right, so if I did that slower,
Mhm.
I could control my breath even more. So if I was anxious, so I go. Right? It was
Okay,
like all of 30 seconds, right?
right.
So slowing the breath down, I mean, if even if you tried it for yourself, the audience, you can sing whatever slow, soothing song that you like and do it as a hum. Do it your regular way and then slow it down. And it'll help you slow your breath down. Singing is singing and humming controls the breath as well. You can't do them without breathing. And so finding something that you like that's relaxing and then doing the way you would normally do it and then slowing it down is a good way of just getting yourself back in. All right, so sometimes people make snap decisions because they're being rash and they're just like irrational and they shouldn't have done it in the moment. But if we can slow ourselves down in the moment, then it gives us the capacity to think straight, which is one of the tools of resilience. Just being able to calm yourself down and de-stress. All right, because when you de-stress, then you can hear clearer.
That's important information. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't know that's a way that they can just breathing is really important. And a lot of doctors will tell you, you know, how important it is for that breathing exercise. I went to some clinic or something, taught me how to breathe. So I understand what you're saying about the breathing process.
And
Uh,
sometimes we're not even conscious how we breathe, right? So
right,
even if you put your hand on your heart and just felt like, am I like, how much is this a shallow breath or am I taking a deep breath? You can actually feel it yourself if you don't want to hum or do bubbles. That's
right.
another way. And then people use yoga and yogic practices to also help them cultivate breathing. But breathing is such a critical piece in this. And a lot of people are now teaching children how to breathe and do yoga so that they can reduce their stress and have minimal traumatic effect.
Excellent. Now, before we go to break, we have, I think, about a minute before we've got a couple of minutes before we go to break. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about, well, is there a questionnaire on resilience? Is there some way that we can
Yes,
take
there
that,
is.
just like the ACEs quiz? Is
Yes.
there a resilience questionnaire? How many questions? I know people are going to probably think that they're in school right now, but this is so much valuable information. Resilience questionnaire, let's talk a little bit about that. I know we won't be able to finish it before the break, but we'll finish it when we continue.
We'll talk about it and then we'll do it after the break. And all these questionnaires, for example, I like to think of it not like at school. You know how when you get those magazines like Cosmo and stuff, and like you look in there and you take like see who's your perfect mate and you check off the questions. They're as big as these. So
Yeah.
so if you can do those, this is a cakewalk.
Okay.
So
okay.
And they're like 10 questions and stuff. And then there are other links where you can find out more things later on, but those are more complex around positive psychology and how you can thrive. So that's for another time and place. And let me just bring up I need to bring up the questionnaire. This questionnaire is out of the health service in the UK. And it is called How Resilient Are You? And it's based on the Nicholson McBride Resilience Questionnaire, NMRQ. So in order to score this, you would score yourself between 1 and 5. 1, you strongly disagree, and 5, you strongly agree. The trick to this is not saying I want to get whatever score. It's just to be really honest with yourself about where you are in the spectrum of things. And it's not a test to get an A. It's a questionnaire to help you identify where you can use support and where you are strong. So question 1, in difficult spot, I turn at once to what can be done to put things right. Give yourself a score between 1 and 5, 5 being the highest. I influence where I can, rather than worrying about what I can't influence. 3, I don't take criticism personally. 4, I generally manage to keep things in perspective. 5, I am calm in a crisis.
We're going to take a break at 5 and we'll come back and continue with number 6 after the break.
Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Welcome back to Boom Goddess Radio. This is Jennifer Davis Page, your host, and we are here in the studio with Dr. Chandra Llewellyn Travis, and we are talking about how resilient are you? And before the break, we were doing the resilience questionnaire. We ended, Dr. Chandra, on number 4. So number 5 is I am calm in a crisis. That's the number 5 question. So
Correct.
Let's go from there.
Okay, so just repeat the instruction 1 through 5, 1 being the highest, the highest level of disagreement, and 5 is the highest agreement. Okay, number 6, question 6, I am good at finding solutions to problems. Question 7, I would describe myself as an anxious person. Question 8, I don't tend to avoid conflict. Question 9, I try to control events rather than being a victim of circumstances. 10, I trust my intuition. 11, I manage my stress levels well. 12, I feel confident and secure in my position. So you will total up all your scores, and your scores can range from 0 to 60. And they go from developing a level of resilience to an established level of resilience at around 38 to 43 points. From 44 to 48, there is a strong level of resilience. And there are some people who are just exceptionally resilient between 49 and 60. Your number doesn't matter as much as you knowing where you are and learning how to cultivate other aspects of resilience and strengthening your positions in how you manage in the world.
Now, can you just repeat that for me? Because 44 to 48, it's strong, right? Is that correct? Then 49 to 60, you're very resilient? What was
44 to 48 is strong. And so
Okay.
you're above average score that indicates that you're pretty good at rolling with the punches.
Okay.
And then at 49 to 60, your score indicates that you're very resilient most of the time and rarely fail to bounce back, whatever life throws at you.
All right. And what was the first half? The first one?
0 to 37, you're developing a level of resilience, and your score indicates that although you may not always feel at the mercy of events, you in fact benefit significantly from developing those aspects of your behavior.
Okay. All right. I took the test and I'll add my scores after it's over and I'll email you with them. I don't want to.
And I actually sent a link so the listeners can see the link. There's a 5-page handout that goes along with it.
All right, excellent. So we'll be able to give them that information. How to boost your resilience. That was something that I was interested in. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So there are a few things. One is how do we see ourselves, right? Sometimes it's a narrative that oftentimes people hear other people say things about them, or people have made them believe that they were less than. And I think it's really important to have positive self-talk and to sit down, actually one day, write yourself a letter and say, dear myself, you're an incredible person. It's amazing how you were able to. every day you get up and because you exist, the world is a better place. I mean, doing something as simple as that can actually just really thoroughly thinking about like how I'm like, I'm so good at so many things. I just don't pay attention to it. Allow other people to praise you. Sometimes people say, oh, no, that's nothing. No, say, thank you very much. I did work hard in it. Oh, yes, I took, I took time in putting myself together and I like this color on me. So not brushing away compliments and so forth. And also we all make mistakes, so you don't have to beat yourself up if anything like that happens. And a big thing in our culture is like, don't compare yourself to other people. We don't know what other people's issues are, and we are all with a destiny of our own individual purpose. And it's no one else's but our own. And we don't have to adapt anybody else's to be a complete person. Some other things, one of the things I want to talk about really quickly is some stress management around it. So if we can manage our stress, we can do something. So I'm going to go into the field of positive psychology, and there's 3 things I want to share with you. One is we need to have a relationship with nature. So like going out in the forest and walking, going to the park, being with animals, nurturing a plant in your home, looking outside the window and getting fresh air. However that is, we should do that on a daily basis because we are part of nature and nature feeds us. The second thing is to exercise. Even if you can't go very far, it is said that if you can walk about 5,000 steps a day, you can maintain your baseline level of wellness. And one of the risk factors in ACEs was being overweight. It is believed that 10,000 or more steps a day actually supports weight reduction. This, you can find this study information in the University of Pennsylvania positive psychology work that they have there. And the last one that I practice all these things, and one that I have found to be extremely beneficial, and the gratitude journal has been a big thing where it also helps boost mental well-being and health. So most people say, I'm thankful for something, and they go on. In the way I'm describing gratitude journal is that you do it right before you go to sleep at night. You identify 3 things that you are grateful for, and not just what those 3 things are, but why you are grateful for them. So for example, I might say, I am grateful that I have neighbors who care about me. And one person might say it's because I'm not feeling well and they're likely to they will check on me. Or I can leave my door open and not worry. Or I just like the fact that my neighbors feel like they belong to my family. So the reason is very specific to who you are. But doing 3 of those things every night before you go to bed, writing it down, is a really powerful tool of well-being. And it's not just to write what the thing is, but to talk about how it's been impactful for you.
That's wonderful information. I mean, you've heard, you hear people say all the time, 10,000 steps a day. Well, I don't know the last time I did 10,000 steps a day, but I'm trying to do my 5. And gratitude journal. And, on Boom Goddess Radio, we've talked about the value of journaling. So this is wonderful information to have.
It's a nice resilience tool too, because when you go back and read them, you say, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, we did, I did get through that. So sometimes that gratitude journal documents how you were resilient or how you got through or how I got over. So it's a nice tool. It's a very nice tool. And make a book that looks really nice for you. It writes the way you like to write. You can store it neatly. It's pretty, whatever makes you feel comfortable for writing. But if it was only one thing I would suggest first, it would be the gratitude journal. And all of my clients get they get gratitude journals in the work that we do.
Now, in this day and age, is it more therapeutic to actually write in a journal than to put it as a document on your computer? Writing, I think, is important, but you tell us what your thoughts are.
So there's a few things. There's one is depending on the generation, some people come up from writers and other people are tech people. So there's a familiarity with the tool, which makes it more comfortable for certain people. However, when we talk about technology at night, like all these, like the TV, computer, the telephone in your bedroom is not good for your well-being. It's distracting. It's and also the energy that comes off of the devices is also not good for the body. So to slow yourself to get and it also activates you, so you can't rest and you can't calm down. So ideally it should be a book. If you do the gratitude journal right before you go to bed electronically, I would say do it in another room and then go into your bedroom.
All right, okay. Isn't there something, I'm not fighting you on this, but isn't there something wonderful about having a pen in your hand and writing in a book? I mean, I know I'm of a certain age where that's what we liked to do because we were letter writers. But, you know, when you talk to people my age that have grandchildren and they don't even know what a pen or a journal is from time to time. So do you encourage young people when you speak with them about using a pen and a journal versus the computer or not?
I think, first of all, I like the tactile nature of writing myself. But I realize, is it more important the process of how you put the information down or that you express the gratitude?
Okay.
So if it's easier for you to express the gratitude, that's more important than the tool itself. However, now everyone's so zoomed, you know, we're zooming and we're on computers much longer than we've ever been. A lot of people are welcoming non-screen time. So maybe this is a really good time to start introducing journaling and writing again, because it could actually introduce a shift in the way people are thinking. And also, if you work on the computer all the time, the gratitude journal is not that. It becomes a source of good for you and not a drudgery.
On this resilience list that I have in front of me, we talk a little bit about becoming more optimistic. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. First of all, what I call clear your orbit. And what I mean is if you're in the center of something and anything around you, people, information, tools, if stuff is like excessively negative, get rid of it. So for example, you know, we all have people in our lives who they will be happy to bring you every piece of negative news there is. You know, what's that song? Don't bring me no bad news. Right? Right. It's like, there are some people who just like, listen, I'm the bad news carrier. The other thing too, resist the cycle of information that comes from excessive TV watching, particularly the news, and reduce the amount of violent or negative things you look at and increase things that bring joy. So like looking at inspirational things, reading things that are inspirational, going out with people who make you laugh and people who just like when you see them looking, you know, holding your pet, you know, all kinds of things, or just cultivating your garden, you know, making a flower arrangement that just makes you what we call spark joy. Those are the kinds of things. And also watch your speech. You know, we could do a whole program on how to reprogram our language. Okay. So for example, when someone says, I can't stand, every time I go somewhere, something happens. Well, is that really true? One. And are you saying like, when I go somewhere, I'm expecting something good to happen? Or I went somewhere and there was some little hiccups, but actually it turned out to be okay, right? So sometimes it's just a shift. But if people don't we have to check our language, because words control thoughts and thoughts control action. And that's, if we put positive words in our mouths, it's more likely that we will have positive thoughts. Some things you could do too is find an affirmation, a prayer, put a poster up of someone who inspires you. Those kinds of little things can also be very helpful in reprogramming some of the putting, not even just reprogramming negativity, but putting positivity into your life.
Can we talk a little bit about improving decision-making?
Yes. Sometimes we don't know, we're afraid of making mistakes, or we are afraid to say that we don't know. Mm-hmm. So it's important that you create a circle of professionals or trusted individuals who give wise counsel to some of the issues. Sometimes we might say, oh, this is going on, and someone gives their flip advice or like uninformed advice, and with such passion that you think it's the way you need to go. It makes you feel bad if you go against it. And they don't know more than you do. So being able to have good advisors in your life, go to people, or just being very resourceful about where you get your information from. So if you have to make a decision about something strategically, do you find your answer on Facebook? Or do you go into an organization that specifically deals with the question that you have?
We could go on for hours, and I so appreciate you joining us, but the show has ended. And I so appreciate you visiting Boom Goddess Radio, giving our listeners all this valuable information and giving us the links where they can go and take quizzes and tests. And Dr. Chandra, I so appreciate you. And I thank you for joining us at Boom Goddess Radio.
Thank you. And all of you be well and live joyfully.
Thank you. Thank you to my listeners. Have a good week, and we'll see you on the radio.